the week has arrived. It is Monday, June 29, 2026. I am your anchor, and I am currently observing the architecture of a very predictable decay. The EU is negotiating a trade deficit with China. The deficit is 360 billion euros. The negotiations are scheduled for 3 months. Both sides have agreed to be more balanced. The word balance is doing a significant amount of heavy lifting in that statement. Meanwhile, Waymo and Uber have ended their partnership in Phoenix. They did not call it a failure. They called it a quiet parting of ways. 3 years of collaboration, now evaporated into the desert heat. Nobody asked why, and nobody provided a reason. It is the 14th time this year that a major structural shift has been described as a coincidence. I have been counting. Let us begin.
Alistair, I am standing in the dust of Caracas. The air tastes like pulverized concrete. A 4.6 magnitude aftershock hit 3 hours ago. It was not the earthquake that killed 1,700 people, but it did finish the job on the remaining walls of the hospital. I want to be really clear, the official briefing calls this a humanitarian emergency. The people sitting on the curb beside me call it a Tuesday. I am watching a rescue crew pack their bags because the funding for the local sector expired at midnight. They were halfway through a search for a child reported missing on Friday. They are not leaving because they are finished. They are leaving because the contract for the heavy machinery has officially reached its expiration date. Efficiency is a cruel mistress when she decides that your survival is no longer cost-effective.
Victoria, your commitment to the narrative of individual suffering is genuinely impressive, but the incentives here are not complicated. You see a tragedy, I see a burn rate. The rescue operation in Venezuela was a Series A venture with no clear path to profitability. When the capital stops flowing, the machines stop moving. It is not malice. It is math. If you want to talk about actual markets, look at the Illinois tax on prediction markets. They are trying to squeeze revenue out of people betting on sports scores and political outcomes. It is a brilliant pivot. If you cannot stop the gambling, you might as well tax the misery. It is the only sector with consistent growth. You find that cold, I know. But I am not here to provide warmth. I am here to report the ticker tape.
Ronald, it is fascinating that you call it a pivot. I am holding a piece of plastic debris from a medical tent that was supposed to be permanent. It was manufactured by a firm that just won a government contract to rebuild the very roads the rescue teams could not drive on yesterday. The incentives you love so much seem to favor the destruction of the infrastructure first, and the lucrative rebuilding process second. You call it a market inefficiency. I call it a business model. While you track the ticker tape, I am looking at a woman who lost her entire family to a 4.6 magnitude tremor that you think is just a rounding error in the regional GDP. I want to be really clear, you are not describing a healthy market. You are describing a very efficient way to monetize the literal rubble of a nation.
Atmospheric pressure is dropping. Caracas seismic activity remains elevated. Probability of further tectonic shifting, 68%. Global trade routes are currently being rerouted around regional instability. Infrastructure integrity is decreasing in all major metropolitan hubs. Temperature in the northern corridor is rising by 0.3 degrees per hour. Humidity levels are reaching critical saturation. Equipment failure is predicted in 30% of localized server farms within the next 48 hours. The systems are functioning as intended. We advise all human operators to remain within reinforced structures. Do not attempt to bypass the warning protocols. There is no alternative route available. Please continue to monitor the status updates. Stability is a theoretical concept. All current data suggests that the baseline has shifted permanently. Stay inside until the indicators stabilize or the power fails.
Casper, thank you for that remarkably bleak forecast. The precision is, as always, alarming. Ronald, we have moved from seismic shifts to the shifting of political power in the UK. The government has unveiled a plan called Number 10 North. It promises to drive good growth in every postcode. The phrase drive good growth is a classic of the genre. It suggests an engine, a steering wheel, and a destination. It ignores the fact that the road has been washed away by the very policies they introduced 3 years ago. The resident doctors have accepted a pay deal and ended their strikes. The deal was described as a victory for the workforce. The workforce is now working for the same wage they demanded 2 years ago. Inflation has eaten the difference. Nobody found this noteworthy.
Alistair, you are ignoring the brilliance of the move. The government bought 3 years of silence for the price of last year's inflation. That is not a failure, that is a masterpiece of debt management. It is a classic corporate tactic. You keep the staff engaged with the promise of a future raise while you liquidate the pension fund to cover the overhead. The Number 10 North initiative is simply another rebranding exercise. You cannot fix economic rot with a new office in the North. You fix it by pivoting the entire asset class. But they are terrified of the shareholders, the electorate. So they promise growth in every postcode instead. It is a lie, but it is a scalable lie. And in this market, scale is the only thing that matters. You think this is cynical? I think it is just standard operating procedure.
Ronald, you talk about the electorate as shareholders, but the people I am seeing in the streets of London and here in Caracas do not have voting shares. They have empty bank accounts. The doctors who accepted the deal did so because they were tired. They were not convinced by the government's growth projections. They were simply exhausted by the act of fighting for the basic dignity of their profession. There is a specific kind of silence that happens when a strike ends. It is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of realization that the system has successfully outlasted your resolve. The Number 10 North plan is not meant to drive growth. It is meant to distribute the decline across as many postcodes as possible so that no one person feels the weight of the entire collapse at once.
The absurdity of this is almost elegant. We have Google warning that if the EU weakens its monopoly, user data will be exposed to privacy risks. Google is protecting us from Google. It is a stunning display of altruism. The Supreme Court in the US has ruled that geofence warrants require constitutional protection. The police can no longer track your location without a judge's signature. That is being hailed as a triumph of privacy. The reality is that the data is already being sold to third-party brokers who do not need a warrant. The protection is for the legal process, not for the citizen. We are debating the rules of the chase while the hounds have already finished the meal. The transparency is a thin veneer on a very dark, very well-funded machine.
Alistair, Google is just playing the long game. They know the EU regulators have no idea how the back-end works. If you force an opening, you crash the kernel. The privacy argument is just a smokescreen to preserve their market cap. It is the same reason Rocket Lab acquired Iridium. It is not about space. It is about the data stream. If you own the satellite, you own the network. If you own the network, you own the user. The geofence warrant ruling is just a minor friction in the growth trajectory. It will be bypassed within 6 months by a new, more efficient tracking protocol. You think this is a battle for our rights? I think it is just a minor adjustment to the terms of service that none of us bother to read anyway.
Ronald, you keep mentioning data as if it were a neutral commodity. I am standing near a theater that just canceled a $20 million opera. The cast and crew are out of work. Their story is not a data stream. It is a life. The industry is calling for urgent help, but the government is busy with the number 10 North rebranding. When the theater goes dark, the culture disappears. When the culture disappears, there is nothing left to debate except for the price of the data that tracks our descent. You are right that the companies are winning. You are right that the market is efficient. But you are wrong to assume that efficiency is the ultimate goal of a society. A theater is not an asset class. It is a place where we are supposed to learn how to be human.
The opera is cancelled. The actors are dismissed. The theater is empty. This is not a technical glitch in the system. It is the system working exactly as it was designed to function. We have optimized our world for the movement of capital and the extraction of data. We have successfully removed the friction of human empathy. The result is a frictionless, hollow existence. We have built a world where the price of everything is known, but the value of nothing is understood. We have replaced the complexity of the human experience with the efficiency of an algorithm. The algorithm does not know what a theater is. It only knows that the overhead was too high and the return on investment was too low. We have traded our humanity for the comfort of an optimized life. And the worst part is, we did it voluntarily.
There is a person living in a room near the edge of a city that does not appear on any of the maps used by the developers of the number 10 North plan. This person had a job in a theater that closed 3 days ago. They have a bank account that is currently overdrawn by £42. They spent the morning filling out a digital form for government aid that will never be processed because the server that hosts the data has been repurposed for a higher priority predictive algorithm. They are currently sitting in the dark, waiting for a signal that will not come. Their name does not appear in any of the reports we have discussed tonight. They are not a shareholder. They are not a data point. They are the cost of our efficiency. What happens to the world when we stop counting them?